Okay, could you hear me in the room?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
Can you say something again?
Well, you're going to hear an echo because I'm on the phone and on the.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I think we're good.
What'd you guys do? Take chairs out of the meeting room?
Okay, we're about to be on track.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Do we have Commissioner DeBello on Zoom? Okay. Noting the presence of all three commissioners, I will call to order the November 25th, 2024 meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. And I will ask our COO, Lee Soltesiak, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we are here to carry out one of the most important responsibilities that we have as an election board and in our democracy, which is to certify the results of our most recent election, the 2024 general election. I want to thank first our voter services team. Is Frank here? Frank up here?
Oh, he's out there. I can
He's
see
not
him.
there. He's out in the hall.
Hiding.
There's a lot of people. Frank is hiding. But Frank did an extraordinary job leading the team. It is a lean but mighty team this year. This was the first year he was the director of elections, and we can clap and just please go ahead. So we have one of the leanest teams in the Commonwealth, according to our population, according to the cost. And yet we have some really extraordinary results to talk about from this election. The top line is this, is that in 2024, more people voted in Montgomery County, 525,000 people to be precise. That is the highest number of votes ever cast in the history of our county. So that was made possible by the work of voter services, making it accessible, making it easy for people to vote, by the work of our 2,800 poll workers who worked at 426 precincts across the county, people who are all dedicated to ensure that their friends, neighbors, and fellow Montgomery County residents could vote. And this was not without challenges. So in previous years, we had issues with external vendors in terms of being able to get our ballots out on time. The last election, some people got their ballots a week before the election. This time, thanks to the work, I'll thank our COO, our solicitor, our team, for organizing it in such a way that we lined up a new set of vendors that were able to get ballots out 6 weeks earlier. So people voted in Montgomery County for 6 weeks instead of one in this November election. We also doubled the number of satellite offices where people could vote in person. We added 6 drop boxes and launched a mobile satellite office that reached every corner of the county. Our communications team, led by Megan Alt, was able to get this information out there directly to the voters to get a response to misinformation that was out there, and also just to let people know that we are available. We're here to serve the constituents, and without that work, we would not have seen a 90% return rate on our mail-in ballots, up from 77% in the primary. So thank Megan for that tremendous work. And Of course, our legal team, there's no election that doesn't come without its fair share of disputes in court. And I will say, for those who aren't aware, we were sued by both the McCormick campaign and the Casey campaign, which just gives you a sense of what it's like to be an election official. But we had a legal team that made sure that we always did best by our voters. We protected the right to vote. And we also set in place processes to ensure that ballots that might not be counted could be fixed. And one of the consequences of that is that if you look at the way voters experienced the election in 2022, where over 2,000 were not able to have their ballots cast, and we had cured 33 ballots. Instead, in 2024, we've cured over 1,168 ballots, meaning those voters who in a prior year might have had their votes thrown out were able to be confident that when they cast their ballot, we were able to have it counted. So that is a big success, in part due to our legal team and the procedures that we were able to put in place. So please thank them for their work. And we have one of the lowest error rates in the Commonwealth as a result. So a couple of quick examples. Those are by the big numbers in terms of what we've been able to accomplish. There's also just real people that we can talk about. Voter Services was able to help one person who was admitted to the hospital the day before the election. They got a designated agent form, filled out an emergency ballot, were able to cast their vote. There's an active military duty voter stationed out of state using absentee ballots for the first time. Issues came up, we were able to address them. College students out of state were able to overnight their ballots to be counted on time. And we had our voter van helping voters for the first time in every part of the county. These are just some anecdotal stories of how the work on the ground made a difference and helped people cast their ballots and made their votes count. And this is a commitment that Commissioner Winder and I made together when we ran for office, and that was against a backdrop where election officials had been challenged across the country, where the results of the previous election were not respected, and where it was important for us to tell Montgomery County voters that if they are eligible, if they're registered, and if they cast their ballot, they will be confident that here in Montgomery County, your vote will be counted. And I'm proud to say that we're able to convey that to them and be more confident than ever that we are protecting voting rights in Montgomery County. So with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Winder.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I have to say that I want you all to come to the Board of Commissioners meeting because it's not always this packed. So make sure you come next time we have a Board of Commissioners meeting. In all seriousness, I want to thank everyone for being here, being a part of this great thing called our democracy. When people are involved, even if we don't always agree, it's always a good thing. So it's good to see everyone. So just for those who have never participated in a board meeting before, I just want to level set. This board meeting has consistently, or this board has consistently and repeatedly emphasized that public discourse is an important part of the civic process. We know we're not always going to agree, but in order for us to have productive discourse, we must be respectful in our comments and behavior regardless of our perspectives. As Montgomery County residents, we all have a stake in what's happening here in our great county. We all care very deeply. It's why we show up to work, why we have members of the public share their thoughts and feedback in the room and on Zoom. Next page. We're all entitled to those opinions, and this board respects people's ability to share those opinions and perspectives. We are not always going to agree, but what we will not tolerate is disrespect, disruptive behavior, or hateful speech. We have agreed upon this as a Board of Commissioners So I expect that as commissioners, we will set the tone for that discourse. And that as commissioners, we will hold all visitors accountable to that expectation as well. So anyone who intends, and I think many of you will intend on participating in public comment, we can be constructive, we can share that discourse, but we can be considerate while doing it. We can disagree without being disrespectful to each other or anyone on this board. And these meetings are intended to be a safe space. I repeat, a safe space, a place where any resident can make their voices heard to share their legitimate concerns or comments about county business. And so I hope that anyone who attends these public meetings acts with the decorum that this meeting deserves. And I'm confident, looking at some of the faces in this room, that you all will. I also want to address a topic. Are you going to address the undated, incorrectly dated ballots now? Why don't you? I'm going to turn it back over to Commissioner Mercado for additional.
Those are comments.
Yes.
But, you know, I understand that there's been a long-running saga over the issue of undated and misdated ballots in Pennsylvania. And to give folks the background who aren't aware, there were originally court cases saying we can't count those ballots. And then there were court cases saying that we can count those ballots and we must count those ballots under, first, the Civil Rights Act. There's a clause in the Civil Rights Act that says that you cannot disqualify, essentially, you cannot disqualify a vote based on something that is immaterial to a voter's eligibility. So if somebody puts their birthday on an envelope, that's not an excuse to throw out their ballot because they're eligible, they're a lawful citizen who has every right to cast their ballot. And a court held that. The Third Circuit held that. That decision was mooted because I guess the election was no longer being contested, or it was mooted. And so we went back to a state where it was unclear what was happening. And then the Third Circuit decided again, that clause only applies to registration and not to mail-in ballots. So then we couldn't count those ballots. And then the Pennsylvania courts, the Commonwealth Court in particular, made a decision that it would be unconstitutional to not count those ballots. And that decision was made recently before the election, and it was stayed by the Supreme Court because it was in part during the pendency of an ongoing election. So that led to a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty actually remains because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has not yet decided whether or not it is constitutional to discard those ballots. They did decide that we're not going to count them in this election, and we are going to comply with that ruling, and unfortunately cannot count those ballots. Now, in Montgomery County, it's 501 ballots out of 525,000 ballots. So we're not talking about an election being swung either way by these ballots. But what's important to us as commissioners is that if there are any ambiguities, we are going to err on the side of voting rights. That's what our residents care about. That's what we heard when we ran for office, and that's what we committed to. And we'll always do whatever we can to make sure that anyone who is a lawfully eligible registered voter has their vote counted. Now, what I hope is that the Supreme Court will decide that the Commonwealth Court was correct in ruling those unconstitutional. What they did is they said in this election, we're not going to count those ballots, so we can't. But absent any further action, I believe the Commonwealth Court ruling is back in play, correct?
Absent another action for the primary, the Commonwealth ruling would be controlling this.
Yes. So absent another action, the Commonwealth Court ruling is now controlling, which means in the next election, we will count those ballots. I'd much rather have the court decide either way sooner rather than later. So that's where we are on that situation. And I think it's important to note, that there have been conversations or allegations that this is, I think someone posted a photo calling us election deniers, which I find interesting because we're about to certify an election, and I think we expect to do that. And perhaps neither of us agreed with the outcome or wanted that, but here we are upholding the process and protecting rights of every voter. But I think it's important for us to convey that there are always disputes in election litigation. Like I said, we got sued by both campaigns, both parties on the same race this election. We always have to make tough decisions about what to do. But what's important is that we go through the process, the court hears out the parties, and then we abide by that ruling, which is exactly what happened here. So that's the background on this case. It remains unsettled until the Pennsylvania Supreme Court makes a final decision. And I do hope that they recognize that a voter who is lawfully eligible, who is registered, should have the chance to cast their ballot and be confident that it will be counted, because the right to vote is hard won. We've had a long history where we've had to protect the right to vote. There's a history of poll taxes, literacy tests, and a lot of games of gotcha when it comes to trying to throw out people's votes over reasons other than the fact of whether they're eligible or not. And in recognizing that history, I think we feel it's very important to treat every ballot as sacred and ensure that here in Montgomery County, you can be confident that your vote will be counted if you're eligible.
So the other thing that I was just going to say, and thank you for explaining that, because I know there will be a lot of public comments on that issue. So thank you for that. But I also just want to say thank you to you. When I think about my 104-year-old grandmother who passed away this past April, and I think about, her growing up in the segregated South and all of the rights that she did not have available to her when she was growing up, and how much she fought and how much my mother fought to ensure that we could have the rights that we hold dear today. So I want to thank you for your leadership around protecting our voting rights. I know that, there's been a lot of negativity around that work, but I've been watching, from the sidelines, and I've been out in front with you. And I know that your battle to protect our voting rights has been hard fought. You've taken your role as the chair of the Board of Elections very seriously. So I want to thank you, and I want to commend you for the work that you did over the last year to ensure that Montgomery County did right by the residents of Montgomery County. So thanks, you.
Thank you.
And
Is there
And
an
that-
opportunity, for me to
when I-
comment?
when I'm-
We're good
Yeah.
to go.
yeah, I'm gonna finish my comments and then you can
Okay.
go.
All right, thanks.
And thank you to Frank and the whole entire team that played a role. And so I'm done doing the kumbaya. So
I was going to reciprocate for a second.
that's okay. We can let the commissioner.
I'll come back to that in my closing comments.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. Commissioner DeBella is online on Zoom.
All right, well, thank you. Unfortunately, I was committed to coming to this conference, so I have to Zoom in, or I'd be there today. I want to first thank and congratulate Frank for running this election. It was a big undertaking. There was a lot of different moving parts. Specifically hearing from, I'm at a county commissioner conference and hearing from other counties and what they went through, the things that they were dealing with. Some things were very similar to what we had to deal with in Montgomery County versus other counties, but the volume or the magnitude of our election in Montgomery County is a lot larger. On the flip side of it, after listening to other counties, I think in most part we did a lot of good things, and we're able to process through a lot of mail and ballot requests, applications, and getting the ballots processed. There were definitely some different issues or different things that popped up throughout the election, and including on election day, that at some point, for us to continue to make it better, we should go back and have conversations around to ensure that some of the things that occurred with this election, we don't occur moving forward. That's the only way that we could make things better, recognizing the fact that things did go wrong. There were issues. But lots of times those issues were rectified, but things did go wrong. So like I said, we should go back and have conversations around that. We also have to revisit and talk about security around drop boxes and figure out what we're going to do at that moving forward. But I heard somebody throw out election deniers. I haven't heard that thrown out there. I don't think anybody's denying anything that I'm aware of. I haven't seen anything, but I might have missed it. But there are, I know I was contacted by a lot of people, had a lot of different concerns, some valid, some not valid. And like I said, I believe that we could have really good, solid conversations, because I also agree that I ran on election integrity, and I'm going to do everything possible to ensure that our election results are as accurate or are 100% accurate. I've said before that for me to be able to stand in front of the voters and certify election, I have to believe in the results. With this election in November, I spent a lot of time at voter services while ballots were being mail-in ballots were being opened, being canvassed. I was there. I watched the tabulation process. So I pretty much had eyes and saw everything that was going on. We were for the most part, very transparent on processes. We had watchers there. People were allowed in. I still didn't agree with the cattling of watchers, but it's something that we could talk about again in the future. But when people did ask to walk around, Frank walked people around, and they were able to see the processes up close and personal, which was good. That was definitely a change from what we've done in the past, and I think that I think that was handled very well. But again, that's for further conversation. As far as the other issue with the Supreme Court rulings, the Third Circuit Court rulings, and all this back and forth, I stated very clearly from the beginning. I stated this back in March that I will follow the law. I may not agree with certain aspects of the way the law is written, but that's not for me as the county commissioner to not follow the law. The law was clear on undated and not dated ballots. There was a ruling by the Third Circuit Court. This thing bounced back and forth multiple times, and there's a good chance that it will bounce back and forth again unless the state legislative body takes it up and passes some type of Act 77, I'll call reform, to address some of these gray areas. But the latest ruling by the PA Supreme Court was that undated or misdated mail-in ballots were not to be counted. That was whatever you want to call it, a stay or whatever, but that was their direct order. And then after we saw the fiasco over in Bucks County, the PA Supreme Court came back with a more intense ruling and said they will not be counted. Our ruling will not be ignored, and that was a 7-0 vote. So although I agree with what Commissioner McKeesia was saying about this is bounced back and forth between the courts, from my perspective, I will continue to follow the law. I will always follow the law. And if there's a different ruling for next year, which if you're a betting person, I would bet on it, because I'm sure there will be a different ruling next year. But the ruling for this election by the PA Supreme Court was not to count undated or misdated mail-in ballots. So I just want to clarify, because maybe it was breaking up a little bit, but that was the actual where we were at this point in time with this election. So thank you.
I feel like I've addressed it.
Okay.
I'm happy to address further, but look, in regards to Bucks, there was a comment that was not helpful, and I think the commissioner has already conceded that, and in fact apologized for it. That has never been our stance, that precedent is not important. We're very much guided by the precedent that exists, including the precedent of cases in which the Supreme Court stated that under the election code, yes, the date is required, but that they had not ruled on the constitutionality of the election code under the Free and Equal Elections Clause, and that was still very much up in the air. So, as I said, that remains unsettled, and we hope that the court will settle it soon. Or I think you made a good point, Commissioner DeBella. This could all be solved if the state legislature wanted to address it simply by saying that if you're a lawful eligible voter, for example, your vote will be counted. And to give folks the background on some things that have also changed and are important to this issue, we know when a ballot is received on time. We track it on a barcode. We also know when it's sent out. And so there's really nothing that a date provides us that we don't already have to determine eligibility. But I think we're ready to move to public comment. So I will move to that, and I'll just put out a disclosure for folks. So I don't know how many people are here or in the overflow room. It seems like quite a bit. So in order to ensure there's sufficient time for any Montgomery County residents and taxpayers to comment at the meeting, today's public comment is limited to those who are residents or taxpayers within the county. So if you do not meet that criteria, you are welcome to share your thoughts by written comment or email, and just seek out our staff member. We can provide you that information. Other guidelines are just that public comments must be relevant or germane to business of the board. That means that the subject matter of all comments must be limited to items or issues which are currently before the board for consideration, or which may come before the board for consideration at a future meeting. And speakers should present themselves and the municipality that they live in at the beginning of each comment.
First up, we have Joseph Alston.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. How everybody doing? And just as a introduction, my name is Joseph Alston. I live in West Norriton, precinct 11, which is Montgomery County. And I stand before you as a newly naturalized United States citizen with an A number. We started with an A 3 years ago. Thank you very much. But just a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm not going to take long, but I do have an A number, which I'm very proud of. It starts with an A and it ends with 135, and that will stay with me my entire life. I know some people are born here as citizens, so that's not my case. I was naturalized. And prior to that, I was a German citizen, and I was a green card holder for 25 years. And the most remarkable thing about me is that I was undocumented for nearly 4 decades in the United States. And the only reason I became a United States citizen was so that I could vote and be among the counted. And as citizens, we should all want every legally registered voter's vote counted and certified. And as we all should also know, no system is perfect. Computerized systems may produce incorrect results due to programming errors, etc. Even hand counts may be erroneous. And to that end, and I'm just basically reiterating what the commissioners have already cited. In 2019, the Department of State formed the Pennsylvania Election Audit Work Group to study modes of post-election audits to confirm the accuracy of election outcomes and provide confidence voters that their votes are being counted accurately. So nonetheless, here we are today, either today or in the future, next year possibly, we're trying to decide which votes should or shouldn't be counted. How many times have we written an incorrect date ourselves? How many times have we signed our signatures incorrectly, or depending on what the situation is, you sign this, like if I go to Walmart or something, I'm signing all kinds of crazy ways. It's not going to match my voter ID card. Therefore, I just want to encourage our board of election people to make the decisions and keep your heads up. You're doing a fantastic job, as you stated earlier. So my hat's off to you and know that the folks that elected you to make those decisions stand behind you 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up Doug Lotz.
I just wanted to express my appreciation to the election workers of Montgomery County. Thank you.
That's. Next up Doug Bauer.
I'm Doug Bauer from Taliesin Township, Montgomery County. Thank you for allowing us to speak in such an important meeting. Every American that has the right to vote and registered should have their vote counted. The constant attack from those that question our election process by making up pure fiction in order to have election decided by courts is obvious. And frankly, not really constitutional that unelected or elected or appointed officials should be constantly making decisions who is to be elected. That is an abomination as far as I'm concerned. Nothing is more anti-democratic than allowing appointed or elected officials to overturn the will of the people. Allowing American citizens to exercise their constitutional right by having their vote count is paramount to the constitutional democracy. Placing obstacles in the path of American citizens to vote by any means is anti-democratic. No place in the Constitution does it grant anyone the right to interfere with another citizen's right to vote. The misinformation spewed about in the last year or two or three or four is a red herring by misguided individuals intent on weakening the process of our democracy. And I'd like to thank the commissioners for their steadfast strength and wherewithal to fight back on every single one of these attempts to disenfranchise the voters of Montgomery County. You two or three deserve all the praise that you're getting. To know that you folks are watching over our elections compared to other elections that have been out there, I am just happy as can be to be a Montgomery County resident, knowing you two or three are watching our back and taking care of what is important, which is democracy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harley Taylor.
Hi, I'm from Abington 3-1. I'm a committee person there. I just want to join in the chorus of thanking you. I am an occupational therapist, and one of our main tenets is occupational justice, meaning that everybody should be able to access the things that are meaningful to them. Being able to participate in our democracy is one of the most important parts of living here. I mean, you obviously know, I don't need to tell you. But I'm just so grateful to you for standing up through the storm that has come through over the last decade, and being here for us, continuing to give us our voices. So thank you.
Marlene Armato.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm from Pottstown. And I want to relate an incident that happened on election day. One of my neighbors came up and said, I was notified that there was a problem with my mail-in ballot envelope. And I'm here to see if I can vote provisionally. This is a man has been voting for 50 years. He filled out his ballot in good faith. He filled out the back of the envelope in good faith. He made an error. To think that his vote would not be counted, it just seems abhorrent to me. So I want everyone to proceed in the fact that our elections are fair and that the commissioners are doing the best job that they can to see that that is applicable. Thank you.
Deborah McGinley.
Hi, my name is Debbie McGinley. I live in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. I'm also a small business owner. I have a salon in Jenkintown and a salon in Harleysville. And as a business owner, honestly, under the Biden and Harris administration, it killed my small business. So my vote does count and it does matter. I would hope that everyone sitting up there would basically have election integrity and that we can figure this out. No, I don't trust anyone. No, I don't actually trust the elections. I don't trust a lot of stuff. So I hope as a citizen, as a taxpayer, as a business owner, that we can basically get our act together because we have an election coming up, a primary, and then we also have another election again in 4 years. And I really hope that every single person in this room, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, there should be no party line. This basically is about the people. And we, the people, want our votes to count, but we also want it to be done legally. So I really would hope that with the next primary and the next 4 years coming up, that both blue and red, we can come somewhere together in the middle and we can just really make sure that everyone feels as though their vote counts. Thank you.
Artis Lukens.
My name is Artis Lukens. I am a committee person in Plymouth 1-2. First of all, I want to thank the commissioners. I think that we are very lucky in Montgomery County to have someone like Neil Makija, who is a professor of law, constitutional law, and an expert in voter services, I believe it is. We are very lucky to have you on the commission, and I want to thank you for everything you and Ms. Winder have done to make sure that our elections are safe. I have worked the polls, I don't know, the past 8 years. I have sat at the polls from the moment it's opened to the moment it's closed. I have seen just about everything, and I can say that where I work, the polls are absolutely fair. Every week they do everything they possibly can to make every vote count. So anyone that is concerned about that should not be concerned because it is not, it is some kind of fiction that has been passed around the internet. I can also say that I have worked behind the scenes in post-election where they have done the counting and they have done the verification of mail-in votes. And I can honestly say that this commission does a great job at that. They make sure that every vote counts, that those votes are verified, and that your vote is safe and properly noted and properly categorized. So I just want to say that, and to say to anyone that disagrees with that in the county of Montgomery County, you are wrong. I'm sorry, you are just wrong. So thank you very much.
Okay, next up, Lorraine Pozovic, maybe? Sorry.
Hi, I'm a lifelong resident of Montgomery County. I've been both Democrat and Republican in my lifetime. I think all legal votes should be counted. And I thought the early voting process went really smoothly in Montgomery County, and I really do appreciate that. However, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that ballots that are missing proper dates, signatures are not valid. I saw a video from the last meeting here that 2 of the 3 commissioners chose to not follow this law. Although it was very clear, it's not just about this election. It's about setting a precedent for future ones. If the commissioners can disregard court rulings, what prevents them from ignoring others? It's about restoring trust in the election integrity, and this frankly does not help. Like we saw recently in Bucks County, failure to follow this law can result in demands for resignation, litigation that's costly to the taxpayers, along with calls to vote them out of the next election. The bottom line, it's necessary for county commissioners to uphold the legal standard. And it's important for democracy, integrity, and public trust in the electoral process. And so I appreciate your allowing me to speak today.
Thank you.
Teresa Holohan.
Hi, I'm a resident of Montgomery County. I live in Collegeville. I got involved with poll watching in 2022, and I feel that everything goes smoothly at the polls. And I feel like everyone has a chance. It's just it's the mail-in ballots that I think people question. And then we find out that we're accepting ballots that aren't dated and signed properly. I went for the first time this year to do the early in person, and I never voted by mail before, but it's the same concept. And after I voted, I'm always careful about getting the right dot and everything. And I read the instructions like 3 times, make sure the sign and date. Like, I think that you have to put some responsibility on the voters. If you don't know what date it is, I mean, within a couple days, but to put a date or not put a date and not follow the instructions, I mean, voting is a right and a privilege, but I think you have to follow the rules a little bit. And my other concern was when I was doing the counting last Friday and Saturday, I think it was, I was surprised because I had volunteered to poll watch at the tabulation center. And I was told that all the votes would be counted, and we're having 3 shifts of workers. And then I find out 10 days later that we're still counting votes. It just didn't make any sense to me. And I think that that's why people have a lot of, you're just skeptical. And then the other question I had was when I was there last Friday, we were opening mail-in ballots. And I know because I did the training to check for the date and the signatures. And I'm looking at ballots that were dated September 30th, October 4th, October 10th. And I'm just thinking to myself, why are we doing this now? Like, why are they counting those votes now? I didn't understand that, and it wasn't explained to us. So I think maybe more transparency would be a good thing.
Sure, I can answer that.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you. So it's a good point. I mean, we asked the same question because in most other states, you can begin to count the votes before election day. Sometimes it's weeks. There are certain states where they can start tabulating as soon as they receive the ballot. But in Pennsylvania, we're one of, I think, less than 5 states where you cannot start to count the votes until the morning of election day. So we have to basically just compile everything. And then our staff has to work round the clock overnight to count them. And it's hard on all of us really across the state. So what we need to do is ask the legislature to allow what's called pre-canvassing. And that would allow us to tabulate the votes quicker and also get to a result faster. I mean, we would love to be able to get to a result on election night for every election, so that there isn't this period of uncertainty where people are wondering where the ballots are coming from. But that would require the legislature to act.
Next up, Sandy Dwyer.
So first of all, I do commend the board for its integrity and its commitment to follow the law. And I would, when you think about mail-in voting, you're dealing with a lot of people of all ages. You're talking to people who have different languages. There can be a lot of challenges. My particular concern is older people. So I would ask the board to advocate on behalf of getting rid of the date requirement and also advocate to be able to start counting the votes earlier. Other than that, you're doing a fantastic job.
Okay, I would just add one other point. So we did find that amongst those voters who do miss the date, they tend to be more likely to be seniors. And so that's really who we're talking about with this issue. And thankfully, we've done some good work showing up at senior centers with our mobile satellite office. That was a help for many of them, but for all the reasons you said, we're going to continue advocating.
Roseanne Milazzo.
Good afternoon. My name is Roseanne Milazzo. I live in West Norriton. I just wanted to commend voter services work and our commissioners who oversaw that. It was probably one of the most difficult years for counting an election, I believe, because there was so much pressure on everyone. I have personally dealt with the team or the staff at Voter Services on a number of things, and I have found them to be helpful, fair, and always very careful in what they do. So thank you very much for all the work you've done, and I hope you do certify this election.
Leroy Waters.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. This is the first time I've been here for a while with our new commissioners. I look forward to spending some more time here in the future. I have 3 items that I wanted to touch on. One was a question. It doesn't have to be answered now, but I want to get the question. How do you change a polling location? Because we have 2 polls in one building that's been complicated. I mean, we're dealing with it, but it would make things a little smoother if I knew how to make a suggestion for that. I've been a committee person, West Norton Township, I'm sorry. I've been a municipal leader. Right now, I'm a deputy constable. Next, I'd like to make a suggestion with respect to the problems with the ballots. And as in the beginning, I had asked this education be for the community. And if there's simple problems, it sounds like that maybe we could find a way of starting with the schools with respect to educating the children, and then maybe they can educate the parents. That's kind of it. I mean, I think you guys did a great job. You folks did a great job, and I appreciate everything you do. And I'm a veteran, so you know, I think it's important that we're here. And as you had said earlier, you know, it's a shame we can't get more people in here discussing these issues to get more feedback from the community for what they see during the day that I know needs to be brought to you all. Right, Lee? I'm a graduate of Norristown's Leadership Academy, and Lee explained to me all about the county.
Don't blame me for you.
No, I believe in education. You know, come on, I'm 29 years old with 50 years experience. And some of you old folks know that I've been shooting my mouth off for that long. Anyhow, appreciate everything. My filter just.
So I can attest that you have been here for other things, so I can verify that. And I would give, can you give our admin the address of the polling location? So we have it, the polling location that you want us to rectify? Yeah, okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Great.
Jefferson Pirates.
Next up, Franklin Armstrong.
Hello. I'd like to say that following election law and greater transparency is crucial for election integrity. Invalid ballots must be cured or not counted if that's the law. Because it can disenfranchise me and other voters in the county. People game any system. You give them a set of rules, they will game it. If the rule is not needed, if the data is not needed, take it out. But if it's the rule and that's what the courts say, that's what you follow. Voting for government officials is a serious matter because of the tremendous power they wield. Election rules reduce the chance for fraud and cheating. Elected officials make and enforce laws for taxation, spending, and regulation. Taxation is the forcible taking from money with the threat of fines or imprisonment for not paying. Excessive government spending leads to inflation, which is a tax that hits the working poor first. Excessive regulation is a tax on businesses, as the lady mentioned earlier. And just look around Norristown. When I go into small businesses that have been there for a while, most of them are waiting, the guys are waiting to retire. They're not starting new businesses. Also, excessive regulation is a tax. It raises prices. And it hits the working poor first. For those reasons, it is crucial that we have election integrity. In these past 4 years, government officials have wielded tremendous power and caused tremendous damage. Rampant inflation, high taxes, high crime, failed healthcare. We all remember the COVID fiasco. Poor and inappropriate education. I could go on. Since elected officials wield tremendous power, election laws must be followed. Ensuring equal opportunity for voters to have valid votes counted. I'd like to ask for several things. Greater transparency. We should be able to see ballot images. I would also like to see ballot envelopes separately so they're disaggregated from the ballots. We should focus on voter rolls to ensure that they're up to date and reflect all valid residents, eliminating those who have died or moved out of the area.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
These areas are crucial. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Next up, Kofi Osai. Osai, I'm sorry.
My name's Kofi Asay. I'm a township supervisor in Taliesin. And I did come to a county commissioner meeting when it was out in the North Bend area. So I really appreciate those meetings when the county commissioners travel. I wanted to thank the Board of Elections for running an election. It's not a hard job, not an easy job, sorry. It is not an easy job. And you know, one of the reasons we have the minority seat is because there's disagreements, and I've seen a bit of contention, and I'm glad you all have been able to work through that, including some of the disagreements with other boards across the Commonwealth. I just wanted to reiterate Commissioner McKeech's point that this isn't settled law yet. I am one who benefited from undated and misdated ballots being counted in my election. And these lawsuits are a thing that happen in close elections. I was getting sued months into my term. It is a First Amendment right to be a sore loser, but my opponent did not concede yet. So I'd like to also thank Senator Casey for conceding after it was clear that there was no more votes to get him over the hump. And I'd also like to thank Senator-elect McCormick for doing the same in 2022 during the primary. I've seen a few lawmakers, including my own state senator, commend the Supreme Court's decision. And I've had this discussion with her for a few other issues, but lawmakers letting those things left to the courts is an application of duty, in my opinion. And I'd like the Board of Commissioners and everyone in this room to reach out to your state lawmakers to advocate for better election laws, like removing the misstated ballot, removing the date requirement, adding pre-canvassing. Florida had a really contentious election in 2000, and now they're the fastest state to count ballots, and I think there's a lot to learn from that, and we can do those reforms. So thank you again, and thank you all for showing up.
Joe Rittenhouse.
Hi there, Joe Rittenhouse. My name is Joe Rittenhouse. I'm here as a concerned citizen who believes deeply in the integrity of our elections and our electoral process. Last meeting, we witnessed something that was truly alarming, an open and blatant disregard for the law between both of our county commissioners that are seated here today. Their actions of counting illegal ballots not only undermine the very foundation of what it is to be a democracy, but they have disenfranchised voters, Black, brown, LGBT. You have disenfranchised voters by counting illegal ballots. I personally sent tens of thousands of people to early vote locations. I personally cured hundreds of ballots. People were turned away at these early voting locations illegally. In Bucks, they managed to get it back. In Monco, we did not. My personal opinion. Let me be clear. This is not a matter of political nuance or interpretation. The law was broken. Trust in your elections has been shattered. As somebody who said, hey, we are very keen on having trust in our elections, all of a sudden we don't have trust because I can't trust my 2 county commissioners to follow the law. So if anyone in this room understands the profound implications of this misconduct, it should be you, Commissioner. 4 weeks ago, you did a video for the New York Times detailing what election denial looks like, what election denial and disregarding election law would look like, only to turn around 4 weeks later and do the exact thing you accused people of in that video. Sowing distrust in our elections and disenfranchising voters. This entire speech is actually made from the points you made in this video. This was never about empowering voters, but this is about securing or strengthening our democracy. This is about consolidating power into a very small minority of people and disenfranchising the rest of us. There are people who have wielded control for too long, and now they want to wield that control over others for longer. This is not progressive, this is regressive. Regardless of what you personally believe, you broke the law, and you have green light in the future for other people to disregard the law, as long as people believe that to be immaterial. To be clear, also, I added this, to be clear, public officials must tolerate mean, unkind, and hateful comments. It is the law. This is truly vile levels of voter suppression. You are bringing us back to a time when the power was held to a select few and the rights of others were ignored. Thank goodness people like Chairman Whatley are determined to hold you accountable, both in Bucks County and now here in Montgomery County. I do not have the luxury of millions of dollars or to take millions of dollars from my campaign contributions, whether it's for gas or from people over in California, New York, Maine, etc. I do not have that luxury, but the RNC does have that ability to do that. Thank God I knew that accountability was coming when Governor Shapiro said himself that you guys had gone too far. So I thank you for your time. I look forward to repercussions coming legally. I also look forward to the political repercussions in the coming years. So thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question before you leave?
Absolutely. No.
You called me an election denier. What election am I denying?
Do you deny? This is what I want to be clear. Do you deny? Hold on. Do you deny that it was the law to count those ballots?
What election?
Do you deny it's the, no, hold it. Do you deny?
That's my question.
No, I want to be clear. Do you deny?
Your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, no, now you don't want the answer suddenly.
I'm asking you a question.
And I'm trying to give you the answer and you don't want it?
What election am I denying?
Are you denying the votes that you are certifying were illegal? Yes or no?
They're not.
They're not.
I don't know what you're saying, but you got 3 minutes. You're good. Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful day.
So just to respond to, I've never heard someone say that making a decision to count the ballots of legally,
Legal.
lawfully eligible,
There's the word legal.
thank you, lawfully eligible registered voters is disenfranchising people. Has anyone heard that argument before?
Oh, absolutely.
That was interesting. Next comment.
Your students deserve.
Next up, Martha Wolgemole. Oh.
I guess it's not a secret for who I voted, right?
You're right.
My name is Martha, and just for the record, I am a legal in this country. So yeah, I am a Hispanic and I have an accent. I'm here for the first time, and I'm looking around the room and I see the majority are from the other party, from Democrats, and on the other room probably are many of my friends. But I recognize in here a few people that they were with me on the experience of recreating ballots. That experience was an eye-opening for me for this election integrity that we are working on. We got along, we worked together, and at some point it was just a kind experience with all of us. I even brought food one day to share with everybody. That's who I am. But I am so deeply disappointed that in my experience that when I was opening those ballots, first of all, the mail was already previously opened by someone. And I think for the way I saw those envelopes, they really look like the art coming from the arts and crafts department, because the stamps, because of the whole thing, it was just so embarrassing to the point that today I am bringing you an envelope just to give you a little bit of idea of what I'm talking about. Because sometimes when you see things, they come more clear than when somebody's saying. So before I came here this morning, I wanted to recreate one that it was the most ridiculous of all of them, okay? So it was an envelope that I came across. This is my own envelope. I made it myself.
Okay.
So then this envelope that I held in my hands, many envelopes. I'm telling you, it was just very hard to trust what I was processing. I felt that like I was being used to help the Democrats win. I don't know. This is my opinion and this is my experience. This is my experience. And I am here to talk about my experience. Not your experience, not yours, but mine. So I wanted to show you, that was the sample of the envelope that I was processing with tape like this, with stamps created, with an address and all of that printed in there. And it was not even finished. The arts and crafts department didn't finish it. And it came to my hands like this. And I called out the lawyer.
Feel free to share it with our voter services.
Okay, so I'm done.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for your time, guys.
Kathy, Russell? Russell?
She might be on Zoom or something.
Marilyn Moyer? Newer, yes, I'm sorry, Newer.
Marilyn Muir, Lower Southbridge Township. The November 5th election was a calamity of errors. Late availability of ballots, long lines at satellite offices, voting centers closing early, ballot scanners breaking down, and I could go on and on. This election season and its at least 50-day window for ballot applications, drop boxes, and submissions on many and varied forms has made it blatantly obvious why it took so long to process this election. Is this chaos intentional? I think the message is clear. The government does not work for we the people, but we the people work for the government. This is a fundamentally incorrect message. Elections should be transparent. There is one election day every 6 months. Ballots are printed, many more than the number of registered voters, and distributed for well over a month. We don't know how many mail-in ballots were requested. Late distribution of some mail-in ballots were never received by the voters, prompting the use of provisional ballots. By necessitating the use of provisional ballots, we are creating another layer of chaos in regard to counting or tallying of the votes. The ballot submission date was not prior to election day, again creating a necessity for provisional voting, resulting in a delay in tallying of the votes. For the sake of transparency, we should know how many mail-in ballots have been counted by 10 p.m. on election night and the percentage complete. If the ballot submission date were prior to election day, the 10 p.m. mail-in ballot count would be complete. The ballots for military and overseas is another curious situation and another opportunity for mischief. By 10 p.m. on election night, we know the in-person count. Those people who showed up on election day, many stood in line prior to the polls opening at 7 a.m., greeting their neighbors and followed a clear chain of custody through signing the logbook, getting a ballot, filling it out, and submitting it by machine entry. That number was counted by the machine that night, and a tape count showed the results and audited, all completed by 10 p.m. The in-person votes have long since been counted, and there are no issues with dates or signatures. Clearly, the in-person voting has rules and procedures that avoid all the current election problems. If a citizen shows up on election day and isn't on the voter rolls, they cannot vote. If absentee and mail-in ballots are kept to clear reasons and submitted well before election day, problems with dating envelopes and lack of signatures would not occur. Now, here we are 3 weeks after the election, and the Democrat commissioners want to illegally count undated and misstated ballots. This is not the first time that undated and misstated ballots have been a problem. In that case, our Democrat county commissioners interpreted instead of following the law. I wonder if Rich Marino is paying attention. Thank you, Commissioner DeBella, for standing firm on our election laws and rules. Honest character and integrity counts.
Okay, time's up. Quick, point of clarification on just the last two speakers. We are not counting misstated, undated ballots for this election. They're not in the tabulation. So I want to count the votes of every lawful, eligible, registered voter. I'm speaking. And I'm also curious how many of you had a problem when the former president lost 60 legal cases in court trying to overturn the election, right? Was anyone around there? Wow.
Next up, Michelle Malord. Michelle Malord.
Folks, again, I'm gonna ask you, be respectful of each other in here, or you will be asked to leave, all right?
Thank you.
Let's see, good morning, but no, not really. Good afternoon. Used to be in here in the morning for the other commissioner meetings. I'm here today because of the blatant disregard for the PA Supreme Court ruling, and there was a decision that was ignored. You put on a real dog and pony show, acting as if there was a choice in counting several categories of ballots, the not signed ballots, the miss or non-dated ballots, the ballots with no secrecy envelope. You were told by the Supreme Court that these ballots were not to be counted, and you were willing to do it anyway. I've stood here before and spoke about the non-constitutional and unsurveilled drop boxes and the ballot harvesting ban. I pleaded with you to stop making a mockery of our election process and that history would not look fondly upon this time. Then you took it to an even more egregious level and defied the PA Supreme Court ruling. You turned our precious elections into a circus, a corrupt circus. So many disenfranchised voters didn't receive mail-in ballots. I've got many phone calls from people going, it's a couple days away. I didn't get my mail-in ballot yet. So many were turned away from satellite offices because there wasn't ink or there weren't printers or, you know, several times that happens that printers were down and they ran out of ink. How do you run out of ink when that's your one and only job, to print the ballots so that people can vote? Union sent a message to people that you didn't really care if people illegally put a couple of ballots in the drop boxes. You were very nonchalant about that. I could go on and on. Mr. Makisha tried at the other meetings to intimidate the citizens that were watching the drop boxes to ensure that the rules were being followed. Since much to your doing, there weren't any security measures for these boxes put into place. You tried to intimidate these citizens from exercising their rights, saying that complaints would be turned over to the DA. You sit in your seat and smirk and laugh at citizens when they're expressing their concerns in such matters. Well, guess what? I believe we'll be smirking in the near future because as an attorney, you should know that you should not be disregarding a PA Supreme Court ruling. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I would think that would be grounds for disbarment. And I wish you would resign because you're a disgrace to the chair. Thank you. Lou?
Hello, everyone. My name is Halu from Ambler. Please be patient with my accent and poor English. Some word I cannot pronounce right. I am a Republican voter. The first time I do the mail-in ballot, and regardless about my caution, the website posted that pending, and that with the dash saying incorrect date. It was a surprise to me. Now I'm begging Mr. Handsome Nail and Miss Beautiful Jamila, who are from the Democrat Party. And please show me what's wrong I do with my mail-in ballot, which is, I believe is not wrong. However, if there's a doubt, I went to the poll to cast my provisional ballot. Later, I found out it's not found. Where are they? Where are they? Because I beg your help, because you are from the Democrat Party. The party always saying you do with transparency and integrity. And what else now? I forget. Oh, democracy. Okay, I don't know if I pronounce right, so forgive me, everybody. So then those words are really help me to sleep well, because it's the nightmare for many years. So now I just want to know what's wrong I do with my mail-in ballots, which is I believe in. No, because I do things very cautious, especially this is very important. I want my ballot counted because many, bad things happen in the election. And it was the first time because I didn't believe it. That's why the first time, for some reason, I don't want to say that, but I have to cast the mail-in ballot, via the drop box. And now even the provisional ballot, I myself was at the poll. And now they say the ballot's not found. What does it mean?
So we can look up your specific ballot. Frank is right there. If you give him your birth date and your name, he can find it immediately and we can tell you what happened. So
now two nights ago,
yeah,
even Mr. Casey conceded the seat. But my curiosity, I'm not worried anymore about my ballot being count or not count. I'm not worried about that anymore. However, it was surprised about the system. The system about my mailing ballot is not count. That's okay. I have another chance, to cast the provisional ballot.
Yeah.
Where is it? Because it's not, I didn't put anything in. I did not drop it in the box or anything. This is, I handed it to the judge.
Poll worker. Yeah, so we had 6,500 provisional ballots. And in our last meeting, we voted to count the vast majority of them. Some campaigns did challenge ballots and did not want them counted. And that's what this is really all about in terms of the undated and misdated ballots too. Some campaigns did not want people's votes to count. And unfortunately, it's possible that your ballot is in one of those categories.
Is that a trash? Somewhere the trash so then I can dig it up and find my
Yes,
ballot.
Frank can help you. We can confirm, but I agree with you. If you showed up at a polling place and you are a registered voter, you should be able to cast your ballot and know that it's counted. That is our entire purpose. That's why we're here, is to make sure that you can successfully vote. And what I imagine is that perhaps you're in one of the categories that these campaigns, unfortunately, some of the people you're advocating for, is throwing out some people's ballots. So you can speak with our director of elections. We can find out if one of your vote is in that category.
Thank you very much. But in fact, I don't need my ballot anymore because the day McCormick won, especially President Trump won.
So I'd like to comment. I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're making comments and saying some of these campaigns or whatever. The issue that what I'm hearing, or the issue is that we had 6,500 provisional ballots. There are specific laws that are on the books through Act 77 or what the Supreme Court has ruled. That's what we're talking about. That's what, I don't know what you're referring to when you say specific campaigns are trying to throw out ballots. Specific campaigns are focused on doing and following the law. It's as simple as that. We're following the recommendation by the PA Supreme Court, or more importantly, the order by the PA Supreme Court was to follow the law. Anything that falls outside of that should not be counted. So I'm not sure what we're trying to state or convince people that certain campaigns are trying to not count ballots or whatever. I don't know what your point is. I don't know why we're going down that road, but if we want to start going down that road, I have no problem to actually start injecting a lot more. I've been sitting here quiet, but if we're going to continue to take these partisan talking points from the bench, then I'm going to go there as well.
I'm happy to. The point is, these challenges wouldn't happen and people's votes would be counted if there weren't people trying to invoke specific sections of the election code that in the past were not invoked in order to throw out people's ballots. That's why we are where we are, is because people are trying to throw out ballots and they're trying to ask the courts to interpret the election code in such a way that it would disqualify a ballot based on a technicality that is immaterial to the voter's status as an eligible registered voter.
Again, that's not an accurate
We'll go to the next comment.
So that is not an accurate statement. We're not, you're going to make statements. I'm going to.
Was that an inaccurate statement?
I said, you're not making an accurate statement. Anything that we're talking about with this election is talking about following the law. That's it. So I don't know why you're the one that keeps wanting to go back to previous elections. I'm not bringing anything up about previous elections. I don't think anybody's brought up anything about previous elections, although I might have missed it. But no one's talking about anything other than following the law. That's what's been brought forward to the courts. That's why we all agree that Act 77 has specific issues. And that's why these challenges are brought to the courts and the courts have made rulings. There have been other rulings that have been made by the courts where I don't agree with, but I don't make statements or partisan statements about signature verification. These are laws that have to be interpreted because that's the way Act 77 was written. Unfortunately, it goes to the courts. The courts are making rulings. The latest ruling by the PA Supreme Court was very clear twice. So let's try to avoid making partisan statements and just focus on listening to what the people have to say, and let's move on.
Public comment, go ahead. Do you have something?
No,
Yeah, let's just.
yeah, we'll move on.
Go ahead.
Next up, Jim Molick.
That was it. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll move on. Doug Moyer.
Hello, I'm Doug Moyer from Collegeville, Pennsylvania, and I helped out the last 3 weeks with voter services in good faith to see how ballots were being counted. And I have to say, Frank was a genuinely decent guy. You have a lot of great people helping out with voter services. I even enjoyed working with my Democrat partners at the door and on the floor. The one thing that I did see that is concerning that I hope that can be improved for the future, if we're here to look at what we can do for the future, is when I came across ballots that were very concerning that lacked a name, lacked a date, or had a date that was after the deadline, I brought it up to the attention of voter services, and the envelope was very clear, no name, it had no date, or it had a date past the deadline. I said, I don't feel comfortable opening up these envelopes because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said that these do not count. And I was told by voter services that I must open up these envelopes. So we opened up these invalid voter envelopes, opened up the envelope inside, and then we placed the ballot that was inside these fraudulent voter envelopes into a holding bin. And the original envelope was separated from the voting ballot. So the ballot in the holding bin that was invalid looked no different than the valid ballots. And what we were told by voter services is that they are being held in a separate voting bin. These ineligible, fraudulent voter ballots are going to be held in a separate bin, but those holding bins look no different than the ones that had the valid ballots. And so, and they were separated from their original envelope, so there was no way of tying them back together again. That policy has to change, because it would be very easy for someone to take a bin with invalid voter ballots inside that was been authorized by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania and have them mixed with valid ballots. So that's got to change. The second concern I have was when I saw your last hearing, and even though the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania stated that envelopes without names, without dates, or dates past the deadline are not to be counted, the two Democrat representatives at the commissioner level overrid it by your own decision. You overrid Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling and voted to count them. And that is a disgrace.
Let me
to the
just
people of
correct some of the
Pennsylvania.
misinformation that you're spreading.
The people
Can you
of
please
the
sit
United
down?
States
Your
of
time is
America,
up.
and it brings shame
Please
to
sit down.
what we try to
Time is up.
accomplish.
So, a couple of things that were completely false that were just stated. There were no fraudulent, first of all, these are not fraudulent ballots. These are ballots from legally eligible registered voters that were properly segregated, as our director of elections will attest, and were not put in the final tabulation. So that is what happened. It's the proper thing to do. They're not counted. That's it. Next comment.
Sally Worth.
I spent, my name is Sally Worth. I'm from Red Hill. I spent some time as a drop box watcher at Montgomery Park. And it was a little puzzling because about 5:30, 6 o'clock, it was dark. Now, there was, I think the Ranger building was in the distance. Maybe there was a light in the distance, but to watch a drop box without any lighting is a puzzling. So I did turn my headlights on in the car, and the park ranger said that that could be threatening to the people dropping off their their votes. So maybe we just, when we have drop boxes, we need to make sure they're well lit. Thank you.
Rick Kozak? Rick Kozak?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Richard Kosich from Conshohocken, which is in Montgomery County. And my comments are in regards to the recent votes taken by this board concerning certain provisional and mail-in ballots cast in the November 5th election. According to a Fox News article on the subject, and I'm just going to quote right from the article because it's very succinct and right to the point, officials, meaning you folks, deliberated for 30 minutes over whether about 180 provisional ballots without secrecy envelopes should be counted. Democratic Board Chair Neil Nikija, who's sitting right in front of us, voted to accept the ballots so that voters would not be disenfranchised, which he has stated here. But other members of the board, including one Democrat and one Republican, voted to reject the ballots on advice of the county attorneys who determined that the law clearly states they should not be counted. Let me state that again. One Democrat and one Republican voted to reject the ballots on the advice of the county attorneys who determined that the law clearly states they should not be counted. So I found this actually very incredulous. So I looked into this a little further. And what I learned is that Commissioner Nikija actually teaches or has taught constitutional and election law, which I find, therefore I find his comments and actions to be incredulous, to say the least. So I do have to call into question then the impartiality of Commissioner Nikija based upon his quotes, comments, and actions. Now, this is not an attack on the man himself as a person or his integrity. I just want to make that clear. This is not an attack upon the man himself, okay? That said, however, I was distressed, but not surprised to learn that the Commissioner Nikija has donated $250 to the Bob Casey campaign back in December of 2022. So look a little further. And according to OpenSecrets.com,
Is this germane?
I also have learned that according to the OpenSecrets.com, Commissioner Nikija has donated $207,882 to various Democrats, including himself, or Democratic aligned PACs over the last 10 years. That is a staggering number in aggregate, 207,000. I have 6 pages worth of donations that the man has made.
I don't know.
Now, given this level of partisan activism, I will call into question the commissioner's ability to remain unbiased when making decisions regarding future elections. And therefore, he should either resign from the County Board of Elections, at the very least, or recuse himself from making any further decisions that are contrary to stare decisis and the PA Supreme Court. And that's what my advice.
So, yeah, so I'm happy to answer. We are the Board of Commissioners. There's a Republican, there's 2 Democrats. You will see the Republican at campaign events for those candidates and supporting them in whatever way he's like. You will see the Democrats doing the same. That is our constitutional right. And if I gave Bob Casey a modest amount of money or whatever you found.
Sir, I understand that. I understand that fact. But
This is not a Q&A. You were finished. First of all, that's false. You can sit down.
It's not, because it's
You
actually
finished
here.
your comments, sir.
Okay,
Please sit
but
down.
It's real.
You finished your comment.
No, it's here.
You finished your comments.
Thank you. So please resign.
We are. So let me just comment. I made a motion for our voter services to find a way to protect the privacy of the ballot, which is something they had never done and perhaps no county has tried to do in Pennsylvania as a way to satisfy the intent and the requirements of the secrecy envelope in the absence of one. So I tried to do something that would actually help those voters who were Montgomery County residents like you, who deserve to have their vote counted And that is my position, and I think it is one that should be upheld by the court if it is tested, right?
Joe Rooney? Joe Rooney?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How about that election, huh? How about that? Congratulations to President Trump, Senator McCormick, Dave Sunday, and a re-election of Tim DeFore and Stacey Garrity. Y'all tried to cheat and we still won. Okay? That's just awesome. Okay? Hello to the overflow room. There's terrible audio in the overflow room. There weren't enough chairs. You all should have anticipated this and had this meeting in a larger room if you were actually interested. Okay? Next, thanks, Tom DeBello. What a great job. You stood for the rule of law. You stood for election integrity. We all appreciated it and everybody noticed it. However, I know everybody's patting people on the back. I want to say this. Tom DeBello demonstrated courage, something that's sorely lacking in our elected officials. And I will say to Mr. Dean and to the solicitor, you needed to have the courage to stand up at the last meeting and say, no, the Supreme Court decision was clear. No, the PA state law is clear. You cannot count what are illegal votes, but they didn't do that. And that should not be lauded, and it needs to be pointed out. We need our elected officials and we need our government officials to have integrity and courage. Next, misinformation. The beginning of this meeting was nothing but misinformation, okay? First off, I hear nothing but respectful comments coming out of here. The idea is that the people are disrespectful. No, it's coming from almost always behind the microphones is where I see the disrespect. The second one is, Neil, you're a Harvard grad, you're all this other stuff. You knew what the Supreme Court law was, and you gaslighted to try and make every excuse you could. You just wanted to count ballots to try and get your candidate over the top. That is wrong. Next, election integrity. We have undermined election integrity in Montgomery County, at least through this whole election. In the primary, I brought valid notices of illegal voting here. It was disregarded. It was gaffed off. Then what do we have? We're going to disregard a Supreme Court clear decision. We close the satellite offices early. How about disenfranchisement there? I know in Abington, I know in Ambler, they were closed. At least 40 people in Abington were told to go away. Come back another day to vote. That's the disenfranchisement. Unsecured and unguarded drop boxes. That undermines election integrity. You're going to count illegal votes. You're going to vote for it. Oh, well, we don't really care. We have a little bit of this.
Excuse me, can you just take the temperature down a little bit? You're like yelling at us. Can you please just take the temperature down?
Sorry about that.
please? That's okay. I know you're passionate, but go ahead.
I am passionate because you know
You
what?
are.
Voting's that I've been here before to talk about the same stuff and you guys still disregard it. It's very disappointing. Okay. You still voted to count illegal ballots. When you count illegal ballots, you disenfranchise the people who followed the rules. And finally, your ballot harvesting van undermines election integrity. Thank you.
So quick question, just this allegation about trying to quote steal an election. Just want to affirm that undated and misdated ballots come from Republicans and Democrats. And Frank, I don't even know, what was the split? Do you know the split? We don't even know what the split was. And one of the things that I'm actually hopeful about in this election is that Republicans did not believe all the misinformation about mail-in voting, and they in fact voted by mail, many for the first time, which will hopefully lead to a place where we want to protect all mail-in ballots because they're not coming from one party, right? So it's also the case that Republicans voted early in person, and many people opposed us having satellite offices, and in fact, it was very convenient for people of all parties to use that. So I think there's a big difference, and making the allegation that our decisions have anything to do with the outcome is, it's not just offensive, it's just wrong. Because we're voting and working to protect every single vote from every single person, no matter who they're voting for or what party they are. Go ahead.
Mary Jo McChorma.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Mary Jo McNamara, of Limerick Township. First I want to say thank you to Neil for, you have a difficult job. Right, Frank, sorry, I don't know why I just looked at you and said Neil. You have a difficult job. From the last election to the current election, things ran so much more smoothly in the ballot counting arena. So thank you for that. It's not a difficult job. To the commissioners that are on the table, I just need to say and probably echo a couple of people's things, right? I am disenfranchised. I am. You are an election denier. You are. And I'll go into that detail. I'm not confident that you are representing me. I am not confident in my right to vote. I am not confident that you ran this election the way that you could have, being upright and transparent about your mobile services ban, posting out a schedule. You want to say it's a good idea, $65,000 good idea? I don't know. It wasn't transparent. None of us who volunteered to help, did you ever get back to help, to take advantage of that help? The satellite offices hours and turning people away makes people disenfranchised. It's just a fact. Based on your actions and the post-election activities that have happened in the 4 counties that decided to disregard the PA Supreme Court ruling, and the amount of sheriffs and court officers that are here, you should have anticipated this room. You should have anticipated additional people and scheduled a larger room so that all of us representing both parties could be present in the same room, not staffing or packing a room early, which was put out by Democratic Party Facebook pages earlier. Oh, Republicans are going to be there at 12:30. You guys come and pack the house at 11:30. So that happened. There are posts. As an elected official and elected officials, you are bound to follow and uphold the law. If you want to change the law, go try and change the law, which I think part of you, sorry, Mr. Makisha, I think you were talking about that, right? You're a hypocrite. You're talking about using the legislation. And are you watching the clock or watching me?
I'm watching you.
Great. So as an elected official and talking about you want to use the legislation to change the misstated or undated or unsigned, but you don't want to use or follow the legislation that told you that you can't consider counting mail-in ballots that were not appropriately filled out. It's the law. Like the bottom line is, it's the law. So why consider it? Now we're all here. I'm taking time off of work. There's an expense to the county. I don't know who's paying my portion because I don't want you to count ballots that aren't legal. So who's paying for that? Right? There's an expense. We all are anticipating getting it. You're also considering a 9% tax rate increase, not 9%, 9% additional from last year. Like, I don't feel like paying that, right? So I think that I know it's not the place for it, but I'm just saying from an election perspective, you are an election denier by considering the law or disconsidering the law. That's what you did. That makes you an election denier.
Just a quick thing, because someone has put a poster out there calling us, quote, election deniers. We are here to certify an election, which I admittedly do not agree, did not seek this result. Like most Montgomery County residents, I voted for someone else. But we're here to certify and uphold the election. We're not causing an insurrection here. This is a rather boring proceeding.
No, we didn't.
That's what we tried to do by ignoring.
No one.
It's democratically run.
Okay.
You ignored that.
Okay.
Smile, you ignored it.
Next up, Janice Sheridan.
I don't.
Change the law.
Well,
Janice Sheridan.
we're gonna bring him up in a second, but I'm not done responding to this, which is that,
I'm done listening to you.
thank you. I'm speaking to everyone else. Quick, just a fact check. 525,000 people voted in Montgomery County. Of those, thanks to the work that the county did, that our voter services did, we were able to reduce the number of ballots with errors to only 500 because we effectively communicated with so many voters of both parties. We communicated with Republicans, we communicated with Democrats and whoever else. We reduced those errors to 500. That set of ballots has been under dispute for years over whether we should count them or not. It is not clear. And in fact, tomorrow the law is going to be different after this election. But go ahead.
Janice Sheridan, skip back. The election's over. We won. That's all I can say. But I would like to know who makes the decisions regarding the drop boxes, the satellite offices, because when I was, which going back 35 years ago, I worked the polls. By 11 o'clock at night, we had the total votes from the machines and we counted the absentee ballots and had them in Norristown by 11 o'clock. So for me, I don't understand why we need drop boxes, why we need all this other stuff that you put forward, not you, but that was put forward during COVID. The white van, who monitored the white van? Was there a Republican and a Democrat? Can anybody answer that?
The white van, our voter services van,
Mhm.
it was staff. It was a voter services staff.
By whom
van.
though?
What?
By whom? Did you make
And
sure that they
security.
were Republican and Democrat?
We don't ask people what their party affiliations are when
Okay.
they work for us.
My point in saying that is the 200, what was it, $200,000 for this van? Did the citizens know? Did we know, the taxpayers know we were paying for this van?
It's not how
So
much.
now we have the drop boxes. Who chooses where they go? Green Lane Park, for God's sake, there was no lighting, absolutely no lighting, Green Lane Park. There's a deserted parking lot in some kind of facility.
So do you want us to certify this election? It sounds like you don't.
Just because personally, you should go back to the way it was. But what I'm saying is every decision that the board has made for the drop boxes, every decision has been, you have to admit, had bias to it.
What's the bias?
The bias is you tell me that those drop boxes are secure. You can't. We've worked them enough to know that they are not. And somebody got up here and said that they put their headlights on and it was taken as intimidation. We can't do a thing. We can't look at the people. We have to be very, like, sit in your car and just watch. And I said, well, suppose they put in 4 or 5 ballots. What are we supposed to do? Well, you try and secretly get a license plate. Hey, how do we?
You report it. You don't take the law, you don't take it
You
into your own
can't
hands.
report something unless
We've
it's
had
on
plenty
a
of
time
reports,
frame.
but we've had plenty of reports of people
Sure,
that
thanks
had
to Tom
concerns
DeBella.
about.
Thanks to Tom DeBella, because Tom
Tom
put that in
Tom
place.
DeBella's
He
not the
told
only
us to-
commissioner that has done good work here, so it's not just thanks to Tom DeBella.
Well,
So we've had a lot of discussions as a board in collaboration with our solicitor and our chief clerk about all the decisions that we've made, so.
but even as you talk about the misstated ballots and that, you say, well, there's the Constitution that says you can do this, but the state Supreme Court said, no, you can't do this. You choose the one that you think benefits politically,
No,
right?
actually, I asked our solicitor what we should actually do, and that's how I arrived at my decision. I take decision-making very seriously, and I take attacks on my credibility, my character.
I'm not
that-
attacking you.
But I'm just saying, there are people in this room that are questioning our integrity. I have lived here for 40 years and I work my butt off, and so does every other commissioner on this board, to lead with integrity and purpose and to try and do the right thing for the residents of Montgomery County.
I am
So,
not
so I just
denying that.
no, I'm not saying you're personally denying it, and I'll give you some, I'm not running the board meeting, he is, but hopefully he'll give you some time back. But I'm just saying, like, you have to be very careful, right? Like, Tom DeBello is not the only commissioner that is doing work day in and day out to make life better for residents in Montgomery County. So, and there are other things, right, that are happening behind the scenes that we're not at liberty to share, but we all work hard to do the right thing. And so in this instance, on the undated and misstated ballots, I took the time to get counsel. I took the time to understand the precedent that had been set. So I just want to make it clear, like I've been quiet generally, that this was not just a, you know.
Well, then maybe there isn't enough communication because just to give you an example, the white van, okay? It comes out, oh, Montgomery County has purchased $200,000 for a white voter van, whatever, going to, this is what the article said, universities and nursing homes. And I mean, my initial reaction is, oh, this is great. Who is going to man that? Because we know that ballot harvesting is being done. And you have to have two sides. You have to have a
that's not
Republican
true.
and it, oh, it is true.
But that's
It
not
is
true.
Yes, it is.
All right, we got to, I'll give it,
So
Yeah.
I want to make a comment.
so are you okay being done or do you need more time? Do you need more time?
No, I
Okay.
said what
Thank you.
I want to make a comment. First off, I always appreciate the support. But let me be clear about one thing. I've said this 1,000 times since I've been elected. Montgomery County has 3 commissioners. Take the election aside, the 3 commissioners, we are working together. We care about the county. We don't fight with each other. We're not, we're not making anything personal. And I think that it's a very strong position for Montgomery County that as commissioners, we're working together. I just want to be clear that that's where we're at. I may not agree with some of the decisions that were made when it came to the election. People know where I stood, people know where I voted, but as 3 commissioners, we are all working and trying to do the best we can for all the residents within Montgomery County. And like I said, I do appreciate the support, but we are 3 people that work together, work well together, and I hope that we continue to work together. And we will have disagreements from time to time, but that's not going to get in the way of us doing what we think is the best for Montgomery County. Again, everyone knows where I stood on certain things when it came to the election. Everyone knows where I stood with the counting of certain ballots. But I just want to make sure and clear that we do and work together as a team.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Tracy Henn.
Hello, Tracy Henn, Park Township. In September of this year, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court clarified what they previously said, no counting of unsigned, missigned ballots. Assume your solicitor knew that. You go on your solicitor's word, but you still chose to count them. And then 4 days later, they came back and said again, you will not count them, and you agreed with them. This time, you said it's 500 votes this time. What about May? What about next November? How many votes is going to be that then? And yes, it's going to change again. The signing, to do away with the signing, when you go get your license, you have to sign a date. When you go get your health insurance, you sign a date. When you go get your concealed carry permit, you sign a date. Life insurance, you sign a date. Why would you do away with a date? That's saying I dated it, I signed it on this date. Why would you do away with something that is validating when you sign something? You tout election integrity. I don't know how many thousands of dollars you spent on those 3 meetings saying election integrity. But I've seen things at the polls. I heard things today. I've heard other stories about things at polls in this election, and you're missing out on a lot of election integrity. There's a lot of sketchy stuff going on. And I personally witnessed people coming and going inside where I was working the polls. I saw a group come in. It's counting down, yes. I saw a group come in into my poll and sit there and watch, and they were not supposed to be in there. That was not election integrity. So please go back, revisit, follow up on these reports, and do better next time.
Sophia Dobbin. Sophia.
I'm not a public speaker, but I want to make few comments to what I see here. First of all, to this woman who talk about people who speak different languages. Я говорю на других языках. I speak different languages. And yet, I vote in English. And just want to enlighten this person that in order to vote in the United States, you have to be a citizen. In order to get citizenship, when you're legal immigrant, you have to take exam, actually learn things. Unlike most Americans who never heard of it and just flap around the word democracy. And you have to prove that you can speak, write, and read in English. So all these different languages voting shouldn't be even discussed. Second point, I worked at election for last 3+ years, and I operate the machine. And I saw several issues with those machines. Each one was ignored. On this particular election, we received machine with broken security seal, and we was told it's okay. I can give a lot of examples from previous experience. And if you're talking about integrity, I would like to know why Montgomery County support and spend my tax money to pay for security, for overtime security for policemen for political meeting in my clubhouse. October 30th, two police person receive overtime, and they said Montgomery County paying for it. I would like you to confirm that my tax money going to one party, and why? And last comment, I look at your face today, it's ignorant and boring face. You're not interested in here, you're just sitting your time here. It's disrespect to all of us. And all this excuse we're doing our best, it's wonderful, but this is not a third grade. And do my best is not good enough if you do your best is not good enough for us. So maybe you should resign and get somebody who can actually do the job, not do their best. Yeah.
Yeah, just a comment. I'm, really grateful that the team was able to translate our voter guides into 8 languages because it will allow more people who are citizens who are eligible to be able to vote. Yeah.
John Cochran.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's John Cochran. I'm from Abington. At the beginning of this meeting, Commissioner Jamila said, ask everybody to follow the rules.
Commissioner Winder.
Pardon me?
Commissioner Winder.
Commissioner Winder?
Winder.
Commissioner Winder. She asked us all to follow the rules. And even she just said, we can't just sweep the law, under the rug and not follow it. But that's the problem. I watched the video of the last meeting and the 2 Democratic commissioners decided not to follow the law. They just swept it under the rug and did their own thing. That's why we don't have faith in you people, because you're not following the law. That's it. That's the problem. It's not there were so many Republicans, so many Democrats. It's you got to follow the rules. You can't make up stuff yourself. That's what we don't believe you. Thank you.
Josiah Kenzie.
Kinsey, West Norton Township. I'm here, not because I want to belabor this point, but I have a family and children and I live here and it's important. You two, Neil and Jamila, have voted to disregard the law and you've tried to discount the seriousness of the issue. And voting to count illegal votes directly and negatively affects the future of our children and our families. And so that's why I'm here. Voting to disregard election integrity law is unacceptable. And additionally, we have questions and trust issues regarding the taxpayer money, $144,000 spent on the mobile voting services van. You know, where you guys choose to go, where it gets to go, and it's not transparent as to where it is all the time to go and harvest ballots. There are large breaks in chain of custody, and transparency is very limited in the process. And the Commissioners Neal and Jamil also added additional ballot drop boxes, and the two in Norristown are 1 block apart. I don't really understand how that makes sense. They should not be open 24/7, available for anyone to drop in multiple ballots over a period of 50 days. Every day and every new option added in the voting system increases the risk of cheating and adds to the vulnerabilities in the voting process. For secure and safe elections, we need in-person voting with ID. For absentee ballots, we need notarized documentation proving the identity, as is required in any transaction, financial transaction, or serious legal transaction. We need an in-person voting day where all votes are counted and the results are known the next day, as it has been for many, many years. So I've been a Montgomery resident since 2007. And, you know, I respect the fact that Commissioner Winder has been here as a resident for, but I have questions regarding the fact that Commissioner Makija has moved here for this position.
What are your questions?
So for the sake of our children and our
David.
families, please, Neil and Jamila, please.
Commissioner Winder and Makija, please. I've never met you before.
What's that? Say it again.
Have you ever met her before?
I have, yes.
I don't remember, but.
I would address her as Commissioner Winder, not Jamila.
Okay. All right. So Commissioner Winder, Commissioner Makija, instead of justifying the serious breach of trust toward the good people of Montgomery County, please apologize and resign for your blatant disregard of the law of the land.
Next.
Next up, Jill Lafferty.
Hi, Jill Lafferty with Payne Township. I was very involved with this election. I just want to mention a couple things that I observed. I was a ballot box watcher. I took the job very seriously. I was there multiple hours. I just want to tell you that during my ballot box watching, a vehicle pulled in, had its license plate literally taped up. So we could not see who was in the car or the vehicle license plate. I was there all hours of the night. Not fun. I missed a lot of time with my family just to make sure that this election was what it was supposed to be. People came in, they thought I wasn't there. They started to get out of their vehicle. They would later say that I was there, hop in their car and take off. During the daytime at the satellite office, there was someone there with an election integrity badge on, which I don't even know if it's a real thing. This person was pacing back and forth in front of the ballot box over and over. Some people at other ballot boxes actually got out a lawn chair and sat next to it. People would come up to them and say, "Are you a poll watcher?" And they would say, "Yes." They are not a poll watcher, and I would see that as voter intimidation. I also had questions about the ballots being brought to the prison. I was wondering, how is that possible? Unless they requested a ballot, I would think it would go to their home. But how is it brought to the prison? Seeing that the prison isn't a satellite office, I would just find that a little suspicious, seeing that if they did fill out their ballots, what happened to the ballots from that point on? Also, I was on the town hall call, and Commissioner Makija had said that it's okay to put 2 ballots in the box, that, you know, he's not gonna say anything to people who do that, because maybe it's a husband and wife. That's not okay. That's not okay. There are rules, and the rules are meant to be followed. And I, as a ballot box watcher, saw it happen multiple times. I think filling out a mail-in ballot is pretty easy. The directions are on the envelope. It's pretty easy to follow. You fill out your ballot, put the envelope in the other envelope, sign and date it. There's directions to be followed, and it's pretty easy. My daughter's a first grade teacher. She tells her first grade students to please sign and date their test. They do it without any problem whatsoever. And as Commissioner Makija had also said that many people opted to do a mail-in ballot this year. Well, a lot of Republicans did decide to do a mail-in ballots. I did it this year, and I got to tell you, it left a pit in my stomach. It was not a good feeling. It was something that I didn't like doing, but like many Republicans and Hillary Clinton's words, I will say, we did this to try to not have our election stolen from us. Is that my, oh, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to Zoom. So we have Adrian Seltzer. Adrian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I had to get the mouse over to the unmute button. Hi, Adrian Seltzer. I see people waving at me. And I'm in Wynwood, which is in Lower Merion, and I am a frequent attendee of these meetings. I was wondering if Commissioner DeBella could reiterate the fact that those ballots that everybody is talking about are not being counted because apparently people aren't hearing what Commissioner Winder and Commissioner Makija are saying. So maybe if it comes from him, the people will believe it. So that's one thing. Two, I've been an election worker for over 35 years. Everything from a clerk to an inspector of election to a judge of elections. And I can tell you that the elections are run properly in person. I will also tell you that as a member of the NAACP, their political action chair, and League of Women Voters of Lower Merion and Narberth, I have stood outside the satellite offices and watched as people came in and happened to notice the drop box. I did notice some people putting in two, but guess what? They had the designated agent form with it, and that allows them to drop that ballot off. Also, those offices were open all month. The only time people were kind of turned away was the people that came the last day and waited to the last minute to use those offices, or at least the one in Lower Merion, because I was there. And I just want to say thank you to Frank and his whole staff for the excellent work they do. The training this year for poll workers was even better than in years past, more comprehensive and more interesting. And I just thank everyone for all the work they do in trying to do an election with over 500,000 ballots. And if somebody put a ballot, just as an aside, if somebody put a ballot they weren't supposed to into the drop box, if it wasn't properly signed and dated and have the barcode and everything, it wouldn't have been counted. So there we go.
Sandra Levine. Sandra, can you hear us?
Yes, I think I'm unmuted now. Sandra Levine in Hatfield Township. I had a few things. The first thing, I think the mail-in ballots seem to be the majority of the problem. And I don't know why we can't count those ballots in the precinct the way the old-fashioned absentee ballots were counted. Person's name would be in the poll book. We would know if they were living there or not living there, whatever. But it makes more sense to have every precinct count those ballots. And we would know by the end of election night, run them through the machine. You would be left with some provisionals, maybe that the ballots don't match to go through a machine. I would like to give a suggestion, because many people didn't know about satellite offices, that every household that's registered in Montgomery County be given a list of what these satellite offices are and the address of them, and with some warning, please read directions carefully to sign and date the back of the ballot. That might get people's attentions better. And I really don't think it was a good use of our taxpayer money that continues to rise in the county for a van that has very limited use. But if you're using it, I think everybody, the public, the general public, needs to know where it's going and how to access it. And I am concerned about the chain of custody on that issue. I know some people, they're like their child was away at college and they asked for a mail-in ballot and they never got it. So there's some kind of problem going on there. And please, we need to have voters taken off the rolls. My neighbor, her husband and she divorced, and he went to move to Indiana, and his name is still there. I worked the book. I'm an inspector on election day. And I'm thinking, why is his name still there? This is crazy. He's 5 years, he hasn't lived here, and yet his name is still here. He's inactive, yes. But people, these machines, I've seen enough where machines can cheat. People can get access and put in names of people that haven't voted, and it's kind of crazy when we've gone into all this electronic stuff. The old-fashioned way was a lot less ability for people to just not vote correctly. And I think it's wonderful we had so many people vote, and I applaud all efforts to get all citizens that are eligible to vote, of voting age, to register to vote. I support all those efforts. And I think it's wonderful we had so many people vote. Thank you.
Thanks. Next comment.
Right, last person for public comment is Erin Blanc online. Erin, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have a bit to say. I'm going to try to speak quickly. I don't know how long this will take. The first thing that really bothered me about this election was the voter van. So it was in my area, close to the end of the time that you could use it. And I went and I thought maybe I would use it if I felt comfortable. Well, I did not. I asked some questions of the paid employees that were there. I found out that they did not have party representatives. I thought that this was voting, so I was surprised that there was 2 Democrat employees there. And I did know that they were Democrat because I know their full names and it's all over their social media. I thought it was weird that they were handing out free items like lip balm, bracelets, and reusable tote bags in red or blue. So if I took a red or a blue one, would that indicate what party I am? And then would my ballot be treated differently based on the color? There was a security officer there also, but he sat in the van the entire time. When they were packing up, I noticed them packing the ballots, and I asked where the ballots were going. Well, it turned out they were going in one of the employees' personal vehicles. I said, why aren't they going in the voter van? And they told me it was because they needed 2 people to be with the ballots for the chain of custody. And I said, well, why aren't they in the van with 2 people, not in someone's sedan Honda? So that made me super duper uncomfortable, and it made me question a lot, especially once I went home and realized who those 2 people were and their political activities. The woman working there had some kind of decoration in her hair and a blue shirt on. She also made a comment to someone that she would take a blue bag instead of a red bag. I just can't even express how disturbing all of this was that I would hand my vote over to these people and not know exactly what would happen to it. The security officer was there too. I only saw him get out to help pack up a little bit, and then he drove the van away. And then obviously, as I said, the man and the woman drove off in the Honda with the ballots. They assured me that they would be signed into the voter services properly, but how would I know that? I also had questions about where the van was stopping, and there wasn't really like a good explanation of why they chose the specific locations that they did. So that was just odd to me too. It was also odd to me that the voter van was active until election day when they shouldn't have been taking ballots, or they shouldn't have been printing ballots out. They should have only been accepting ballots, but that wasn't explained online. So I have a lot more to say. I'm not going to have time, but I just wanted to say that we have lost trust. We have lost respect, and we have lost trust. And I don't care who won at this point. I worry about the next election and the next after that. So trust is lost.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you for your comment. Is that the last comment? Okay, so that's the last comment. I will just make one final comment, which is that people come in every day to our voter services offices, and they work with the staff to fill out their ballots and submit them. And we don't know who's what party, right, in our staff, and they treat every ballot as sacred. They follow all the proper procedures for a chain of custody. Although there might be people suspicious about the color of the lip balm, there's no reason to think that anything wrong is happening in this situation. And not only no reason, there's no evidence to suggest that someone didn't get their ballot counted at the van or any of that. So, and I should just say, if anything were to ever happen among staff or poll workers or anyone who's processing a ballot, there's severe penalties. And it's a federal crime, for example, to break into a drop box or to try to interfere with the process. And that's understood very clearly by everyone who's a part of the process and should be understood by those generally in the public. But we have no reason to think any of that happened in this election. And so I'm glad to move on to the next topic, which is to certify. First, I will actually make a motion to approve the minutes from the last 2 election board meetings from November 1st and November 8th. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Winder. Any board comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 So the minutes are passed. So I will bring up our Director of Elections on the topic of certification.
Good afternoon, Election Board. The Pennsylvania Election Code requires counties to certify the election results by the 3rd Monday following the election. Prior to certification, we must close our canvass and tabulation results and rest for a 5-day waiting period wherein recount petitions may be filed. We closed last week on November 19th, 2024, and completed the first signing on the same day. We are at the end of the 5-day period and no recount petitions have been filed. This time, I'm asking the board to certify the election results for the 2024 general election.
Thank you. I will make a motion to certify the results of the November 5th general election. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Winder. Is there any board comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. The motion passes unanimously. The election is now certified. Thank you. I would have thought someone didn't want us to do that, but here we are. The election is certified. Are there any closing comments? Go ahead.
I have a lot of comments, but I just want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to come and voice your perspectives, your opinions, your concerns. Anytime concerns come before this Board of Commissioners, you know, we take note of them. We have an amazing staff that works to try and address any concerns that people have. And I'll just say that,
you know, I feel very blessed and honored to be a Montgomery County Commissioner. I work hard every day to uphold the oath that I took in January of 2024. It's almost a year. And I'll continue to lead with integrity and try to make the best decision possible when solving very complex and complicated challenges. And so I would just say that, you know, as we go forward, if there are concerns, issues, continue to come to our board meetings, raise those concerns. In order for us to lead this great county, it truly takes a village and an army of people that give us feedback and give us suggestions. And I'm, you know, proud of this board, all three of us actually certifying the election. This is what democracy looks like. And while I too wanted a different outcome from this election, I'm going to uphold my duties of this office and certify this election, which I just did. So I hope that stands for something. So that's it for me.
Commissioner DeBello?
Sure. You know, again, I see Frank standing there somewhere on Zoom, so I just want to thank him again for everything that he did with this election. Although the only fault that I could find in him is he didn't get enough Boston cream donuts, but we'll talk about that. You know, there were a lot of issues, concerns that were brought up today. Some warranted, some maybe not warranted, but it goes back to what I said earlier that, you know, as an election board or as county commissioners, I think that we owe it to each other to at least sit down and have conversations to see, you know, what worked, what didn't work, make adjustments to what we could do with future elections. Like I said, there was things that we voted on that I didn't agree with, and that is what it is. I did vote to certify the election today because, as I mentioned earlier, I was there. I spent many hours at voter services. I got to know Frank even a little bit better than I knew him before, but I spent a lot of time there. I watched everything, all the process procedures, watched tabulation, you know, the ballot recreation, the counts, the recounts, even the move towards the 2% count, the way we did the tally hand counting. Although I think I'll suggest a few changes for next time, but we're moving in, I believe, in the right direction. And so that's why I felt that it was important for me to certify this election this time. There were some things that I did question. There's things that I still didn't like. And, you know, our satellite offices people brought this up, and I just wanted to be clear on one thing. Neil, you commented on a lot of stuff, but you didn't comment on this one. I was surprised, but our satellite offices had operating hours. People, when they got to a certain point in line, the staff that was working knew how many people they could process, you know, by time the office was going to be closed. So they informed people in line at a certain point that the office was closing and they could come back another day to process their ballots, which was kind of different than what occurred in Bucks County. I'm not going to comment on what occurred in Bucks County because I don't have all the details, but I think that from our satellite offices standpoint, we're open for since I believe it was October 5th. So there was 4 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, for multiple weeks. People were given the opportunity. We didn't turn anyone away. Everyone that wanted to vote could vote, that was legally able to vote. Everyone was given the same opportunities to vote. No one person was disenfranchised by saying that they couldn't vote for whatever reasons that weren't true. So some people made comments about, you know, people weren't given the opportunity to vote. Everyone was given the same opportunities to vote. everyone had the opportunity to either vote through a mail-in ballot, or they had the opportunity to vote in person on election day, or they had even an opportunity to come right down to voter services and process stuff. So we've provided everything fairly to every single person in Montgomery County that was legally registered to vote. And we provided the same opportunities for those that were recently registered to vote. The question became that was in front of us. I'm not going to rehash our positions on what we felt we should count and not count. But I just want to be clear that everyone was given the same opportunity to exercise their right to vote. So I did certify this election. And like I said, I was there. I appreciate Frank being as transparent as he could. I don't think, I know people asked him questions and he was very transparent and he was very available to answer questions. So I think that we did a decent job with this election, but we definitely have opportunity to make some improvements. I hope that we're not close to making improvements. But I look forward to taking the next month off where we don't have to talk about any election stuff until we get into January, because before you know it, we're going into we'll be starting for the primary of 2025. So, and again, I want to reiterate that I enjoy working with my fellow commissioners. There are times when we don't agree on certain things, but I will continue to work as a team, trying to do the best job we can for all of Montgomery County. Thank you.
Great. I will just make some final comments. I think everyone is ready to head out shortly, but thank you again, Frank, and the whole team for just working around the clock nonstop to make sure that every Montgomery County voter can have their vote cast and be sure that it can be counted. And there were a lot of challenges, a lot of, to say the least, just misinformation to combat. There were things that came up that maybe you didn't expect. You probably thought you were going to get a break, and then you had to go into a recount, which thankfully was cut just a little bit short. So hopefully people went home on Saturday and had a weekend. But thank you to you, your team, everybody who helped run, election that on the whole was really the most accessible election ever in Montgomery County. So I think we can say that for certain. And yes, to Commissioner DeBell's comment, I didn't talk about satellite offices. I would be glad to invest in 10 full-time offices that are open 24/7 if you'd like, Commissioner DeBello. But there are
That's not what I was saying.
other counties. There are other counties that have done that, just so you know, not 24/7, but 9 to 5 or whatever.
Do I get a say in this or?
No. Because nobody should have to wait in line, and there should be plenty of options to vote early. And just to reciprocate, I'm very thankful for Commissioner Winder for always being thoughtful and thinking first of how people are impacted by the policies that we seek to enact, and always making sure that we're inclusive and really doing everything we can to serve the residents. So thank you.
Is my face that bad? Is my face like, I just try, when we're talking about
I think I
serious
got
stuff,
that
I'm
too.
just trying to be stoic, so I'll work on my face.
No. No, thank you. We got compliments too today. You
No,
think
no,
about those?
Sit down. I think, oh, maybe I need to work on my face.
We got all the comments. But I think that's
Thank you
it.
for that.
So with it, of course. With that, I will motion to adjourn the November 25th, 2024 meeting of the Montgomery County Election Board. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Winder. Is there any board comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.